10 years old, I started 5th grade, and we played a game at school in the bathroom called Bloody Mary, or I Hate You, Bloody Mary. It's a spell, actually, but you don't know that at 10 years old. You think it's just a game. You go into the bathroom, you turn out the lights, and you chant a phrase, and then you wait for a scary face to appear in the mirror. Now remember that if the face is appearing in the mirror, it's got to be standing with you. We would see that scary face, and most of the kids would run out in a panic, screaming. I wouldn't. I was fascinated. And it's not snarling. It doesn't talk. It's not talking to me. It's just there. You know, and I kind of equated. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't attractive, but you know, bulldogs aren't attractive, but they were born with that face. So I just figured, okay, I mean, it's born with that face. I don't know if it's a spirit or what it is. But every time we did the chant, I saw the face. And at the same time as that, I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons every weekend. Always the wizard or the sorcerer. And I just wanted to do magic. I wanted magic to be real, and I wanted it so bad. Now just imagine if you could do a magic spell for anything. That'd be so cool. Yeah, and that was how I led my life. I mean, I wanted magic. I wanted anything that I could play that had magic in it, I wanted. If I saw there was a movie coming on Saturday or Sunday and there was magic in it, I had to watch it. So as I'm doing that, it one day occurs to me, I wonder if I could do a magic spell in real life. Now, everyone's already told me that magic doesn't work. It's fake. Now, I know that I'm made fun of anyway because I'm a little nerd, a little nerdy kid. I don't need to be made fun of for one more thing. So I decide that I'm going to do a magic spell for money, and I'm going to see what happens. If it doesn't work, no big deal, but then I probably won't waste my time playing D&D or doing this Bloody Mary thing anymore. But if it does work, then I'll know that I've one-upped the adults because all the adults think it's not real. So I did a spell for money because I thought, I don't really want to hurt anybody. I just would like to have some cash. And it would be cool if magic works and I could get some. So I did a spell for money, and the next day I went out, played, and I found a can of tennis balls with a $5 bill in it. And I thought, all right, well, I mean, you know, $5, everything I love, everything that's dear to me, comic books are 15 to 20 cents, candy bars are 20 cents, and penny candy is a penny. Told you I was a nerd. And I was like, all right, $5, I can get a good stash with that, but somebody had to find that. I'm gonna do the spell again next weekend. I did it again the next weekend, and I found a $10 bill on the side of the road. And I thought, all right, $15, 8 days. All my stuff is dirt cheap, but this still could have been a coincidence. So I did the spell one more time the next weekend, except this time, I went into the bathroom at home and I did the Bloody Mary chant. So I did my magic spell almost all the way through, then I did the Bloody Mary chant, and when the face appeared, I made sure it knew I was doing a spell for money. Thought maybe whatever this is, I can harness the power of this and make it work for me. And the next day I went out and I found what looked like Monopoly money rolled up tight in rubber bands. I took it home, and later that night I unraveled it all. A bunch of rubber bands wrapped tightly around Monopoly money that turned out to be real money. I had never seen a $100 bill before. When I unraveled them, I had 10 $100 bills. So I had $1,000. I knew that magic was real. I knew that magic worked, and I knew that I was going to do this every day for the rest of my life, and probably not tell anybody because, you know, why would I? I mean, this is like the best kept secret in the world, you know, so I decided that I'm going to do this, and I start doing that. I'm doing the Bloody Mary thing every day because I always see that face appear, and I'm still playing D&D every weekend because it's fun, because now I know that the magic in there is real. I use the magic, the money spell came from a D&D book, and so you know, I'm doing all this stuff. And when I was 11 years old, I was the victim of a sexual assault at school. In America these days, it was at the hands of a female teacher, and in America you hear about this stuff almost daily. And some weeks you do hear about it daily, and it's a different teacher every time. You know, but in 1977, that wasn't something you heard of. Teacher told me it was my fault, I wanted to do it, I volunteered it, it was my idea, and I enjoyed it. I had no reason to doubt her. She's the teacher. She's in a position of power. She told me that I would be in trouble if I told anybody, because it was my idea, and this is bad. So I believed her, and I had no one I could tell, no one I could say anything to. So I just dove further into magic. That's what gave me solace, that gave me peace. You know, in magic, I was always on top. I was in control. I was the powerful creature. You know, because when you're a little kid, you've got no power. And Satan makes you think that he will give you some, when in reality, he's just chaining you. He's putting you in binds, and he's controlling your every movement. You know, you're being ruled by your sin, but you think you're in control. So at 12 years old, I found out there was a group that played D&D every weekend and also believed magic was real. And my friend told me about them, and it turned out that my friend was actually a recruiter for a satanic cult, but I didn't know that. I went over there and they had like every fantasy movie ever made, even more than what I had seen. They had pinball machines and video games, the things that I was really into. And they had an in-ground swimming pool that was bigger than the city pool. And they had an in-ground barbecue pit, and they had weekend get-togethers and sleepovers almost every night. And if you got in a fight with your parents, you could come there and hang out. And if you just left school, you know, for the day, you could come there and do your homework and get help with it, get tutored, you know, and, you know, you could do anything you wanted. Like at my house, you could have 3 meals a day and maybe a snack. But over there, you can eat, you know, as many meals as you want and as many snacks as you want. There's no limit. You know, and you find out when you're hanging out there that what goes perfect with a big meal is a cigarette, you know, or a beer, or a whiskey, or, you know, why don't you get drunk for the first time, or the second time, or the 10th time? It's no big deal. Just don't tell your parents, you know. So, you know, I'm getting involved with these guys, and I think this is a great time. Also, as I'm being involved with these guys, they tell me one day, you know, when you were 11, something precious from you was taken, and you didn't want that to happen, but you did enjoy it. You did have a good time. Your body did respond. So how about if we'll let you can do that anytime you want to here. You can have as much fun with that as you want. No one can tell you no, as well as if you're doing something and you don't feel comfortable, you can stop. You have the complete power and control to do whatever you want, and we'll film it so you can watch it anytime you want. So for about 4.5 years, I was a victim of child pornography, thinking that I was on top, I was controlling everything, I was doing what I wanted to do, not realizing that I'm being re-victimized every weekend. Later in the year when I was 12, a kid told me, "Did you know you're a member of a satanic coven?" Well, I had seen all the scary movies from the 60s and 70s about satanic covens, and this was nothing like that. I was having all kinds of fun. And, but it kind of bothered me, you know, because I was thinking, what if I'm a member of a satanic coven? So I went to an adult and I said, "Hey, I heard something funny. I heard I was a member of a satanic coven." "That's not true, is it?" And he said, "Well, you are in a satanic coven, but you're not a member yet." You know, and I was like, okay. And then he said, "Do you want to be a member?" And I equated not being a member with losing all my privileges. Like, I didn't know where to buy drugs. At 12 years old, I can't buy cigarettes and alcohol. I can't have sex with anybody I want. You know, if I don't join this coven, I'll lose everything. I'll lose all my friends. So I said yes. I said, what's involved? What do I have to do? He says, "Well, there's 13 steps to joining a satanic coven. You've done almost all of them. You just have a few things left to do." So my remaining steps were that I had to sign, there was a 5-page document. I had to sign it in 3 places. I had to slice my left thumb and bleed onto the document. Then I had to sign the document in blood in 3 places. The blood of Jesus washes away all sin, but not mine. Jesus died for everybody, but not me. I signed those 2 places, and then on the final page, I say that I'm selling my soul to the devil. Now, it's impossible to sell your soul to the devil. Is there anybody here that thinks you can sell your soul to the devil? Ooh, nobody's raising their hand. You guys have heard me before. You are correct. You cannot sell what you do not own. So, but I don't know that. I'm 13 years old when I signed this contract. I thought, you know, why would adults lie to me? The Satan's giving me everything that I want. I can do anything that I want. I'm having a great time, you know, and eventually, when I'm old and ancient, I'll eventually die and I'll go to hell. But in between now and then, I'm gonna have all the fun I can. That was my mentality, and all my friends had the same mentality. So they put you in a room with a large baptismal, and I'm wearing a white robe signifying I'm losing my innocence. They baptize you, which is full submersion, in a vat of human blood, pig's blood, and human urine. They bring you up. Yes, it's disgusting, isn't it? They bring you up, you go in another room and take a shower, you change into a black robe, signifying you've been baptized into a world of evil. You pull the cowl up and you go in another room and you sit down. You're handed a wheel with a crucifix in it. The document you signed is read off and you show them your left thumb to show that it was you that signed in your own blood. And then you spin the crucifix upside down, signifying human sacrifice, and you break the arms downward, signifying denouncing Christ. And then they intertwine the document with the wheel, and they tell you that your soul is forever tied to this document, and it's locked in a vault, and you don't have access to it. No one ever sees it again. Then we have a party after that to celebrate that I'm now a Satanist. When I was 14 years old, I was told I was going to participate in my first assisted abortion. I said, oh, that's cool. And then I went home to look up the word abortion because I didn't know what it meant. My dictionary at home didn't really have a good definition, so I went to the library, and there were like 4 books that were all like 2 or 3 inches thick, and I thought, no, there's no way I'm reading that to find out. I just want to know a simple definition. So I went back to my coven and I explained, you know, listen, I know it. You said I was going to do an abortion, but I don't know what that means. And he says, oh, it's simple. You're killing a baby in the womb. I was like, is that legal? He goes, oh yes, as long as it's in the woman, legal. Comes out, murder. Okay. So I practiced for a bit with a scalpel and Play-Doh or a scalpel and apple and different stuff. And my only job as the magic practitioner is that I have to get blood on my hands. It could either be the woman's blood or the baby's blood. I got blood on my hands at the assisted abortion, but I don't know if it was the baby's blood or whose it was. I was so nervous and so scared. I didn't really know anything of what I was doing. That was my first one of those. Now, I'm not going into detail on this one, but it is one of the most disgusting practices. You know, there's different levels of spells. There's very basic spells, and that would be like equivalent to walking up to your friend and kicking him in the shins. There's other spells that would be like punching your friend in the stomach, or kicking him in the groin. Then there's a hex. A hex is like the top spell you can do. And in that, when you do a hex, you want to murder a baby at the same time. And that would be the equivalent of dropping like a hydrogen bomb on his house. You almost absolutely, positively get your wish when you do that spell because you've gotten Satan's favor. You've gotten his attention. In the course of my Satanism, with that cult, I did a total of 5 of those. Now, when I stopped, well, I talked to a friend about 8 years ago. I had just come out, I had just converted, and he said, you know, your talk is really good, but it's age appropriate for 15 and up. Well, the problem with that is that by the time I was 15 years old, I drank alcohol every day, almost to the point of getting drunk every day. I smoked cigarettes every day. I smoked pot every day. I took mushrooms every day. I took acid every weekend. I was addicted to pain pills. I was in child pornography. I was addicted to sex. I was addicted to pornography. I was addicted to masturbation. And I've broken all 10 commandments, including murder. And now I'm 15, and I'm able to hear my own testimony. I'm not saying to bring your small children to my talk, but you have to take what I tell you home and put it in the language that your children would understand. They have to be warned. Your children are naturally curious. They don't need to hear it from me to suddenly get the idea, oh, I'm gonna go try magic. It's all over the internet. Harry Potter is very popular, still. Your kids will read that stuff and wonder, just like I did, can I do magic? And they will duplicate it. To make a spell work, you need intention, repetition, and demonic presence. So if they try it and there's a demon present, the magic spell will work, and your son or daughter will be hooked that that's the way to go. And it's absolutely not the way to go. It's the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. At 16 years old, 17 and 18, I just dove further into magic. They made me one of the main magic practitioners of my cult, and I was totally enjoying everything that I was doing. I was immersed in so much evil, I couldn't have told you. If there was a light in the room, I couldn't have found it. I was, when I was 18 years old, I graduated from high school, and my town was really small, and I was thinking, what am I gonna do to find a bigger coven, or a coven, when I go to another town? I was going to a city. It was like anywhere from 500,000 people to 1 million people there. And I thought, all right, I don't know how to find, this is before the internet. For anybody that's younger in this room, we didn't always have the internet. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, they're not gonna just advertise it anywhere. It's not like in the town square there's gonna be a sign that says satanic meeting here. Well, what they did was one better. At my school, they had what was called the student union. And in the student union, they have all the groups that, like political and religious. So you have like the Baptist student union and the Catholic student union and the Republican and the Democrat student union. And then they also had the Satanic student union. And I went to a couple of their meetings, and it was a bunch of kids away from home for the first time that believed Satanism was all about getting drunk, getting high, and getting laid. I thought, well, okay, those things were used by the devil, but that's not what I wanted. I heard there was a satanic cult out there to rule the world. They wanted to take over. They want to rule everything. Like they're going to rule the banking industry, they're going to rule big money, politics, Hollywood, everything. I was like, that's what I want. If that's true, that's what I want. I want to get involved in that. So I contacted my first coven, and they put me in contact with this other coven, the World Church of Satan, or Satan's World Church, also Diablo Sex. Now, any coven that embraces the name Diablo Sex, because my first coven did as well, Diablo Sex is the name taken by covens that are involved in child prostitution, child pornography, and human trafficking. And those institutions, those groups are all over the world. So I joined that one. I start going to their meetings, and it doesn't take me any time at all to rise right up, getting higher and higher, meeting more and more important people, and getting like into the inner circle, really meeting the important movers and shakers in there. And one day when I was 12 years old, I was at a sleepover, and this guy walked in at like 3 in the morning. He was wearing like a tuxedo, but more old school, had a top hat and a cane, and his face was painted up like a member of KISS. And I thought, that is the coolest thing ever. Whatever he's doing, I'd love to do that. And I asked people, and no one would tell me who it was. So then fast forward about 8 years, and I'm at this meeting, or maybe 6 years, I'm at this meeting, and I see one of those guys, and I'm like, what is that? And they're like, oh, that's the High Wizard. I'm like, what's a High Wizard? I said, well, in a smaller coven, a high priest or priestess is the top magic person. In our coven, a high priest or priestess doesn't hold any rank because they could have been self-appointed. We have military ranking to assess the different magic levels that you reach. The High Wizard is taken from a lieutenant or higher, but could be somebody of lower rank if potential is seen. The devil handpicks the High Wizard. And then you're called before a meeting, and no one knew what happened after that. So I thought, I've got to get the devil's attention. So in the course of all my evil, I managed to get the devil's attention by the time I was 21. When I was 21, I got a notice that I had been picked to be the High Wizard. They call you into a room, you meet with the CEO and board of directors. That's who runs my coven. My coven in 1989 had 1.1 million members worldwide. It's kind of big, and it's very organized. It's more organized than a lot of small churches. You know, my coven did 3 main jobs among all the other evil they did, because they did spells for big money people and power people all around the world. We did abortions for people all around the world, so we were doing a lot of hexes. There's between 2 and 5 high wizards in the world. The number could be as low as 1 or as many as 10. The attacks that we do 2 active attacks and 1 passive. We have I describe it as 3 houses. Each house is back to back. So you have 2 like this and then 1 on the end. Each one has a privacy fence around it, so they think they're the only house. If you're the high wizard, you know about all 3 houses. But if you're working, you just know about the one that you're working in. So one house attacks the Baptist church, and all they do is split them, either through monetary scandal, sex scandal, or gossiping scandal. My team worked with a gossiping scandal of the Baptist church because I grew up Baptist. The other scandal, the other types of attack is against the Catholic Church. You know what kind of attacks those are because you see them. The other house is the passive attack. The passive attack puts out information, literature, movies, books, speakers on communism, socialism, New Age religions, and atheism. Aren't you even the least bit amused that atheists are truly Satanists? They know that there is a God and there is a devil, and they're putting out speakers to go to your town and speak to you about how silly God is and how silly the Catholic Church is, when they know that the Catholic Church is the right place, and they know God is real, and they know the devil is real, and they know if you're an atheist, you're going to end up in hell. And that's their goal. So those are the 3 houses that we worked with. I joined, I made the High Wizard. I decided, yes, I do want all the power in the world. I do want success. I do want money. I do want all the sex I can handle. I want all the drugs I can take. I want all the booze I can drink. I want everything. I want it all, and I want it now. And that's what I did. One of my main jobs was that I sold contracts to people that wanted to be famous. Like if you were a famous rock star between 1987 and 1999 and you had a hit song, there's a good chance I sold you your contract. Now, what they're buying, I'm telling them, I go to what's called a warehouse deal. You go there, there's a bunch of rock stars. Some of these people can't sing, they can't dance, they can't do anything. They have no skills, but they're willing to do anything for fame and fortune. So I ask them, what are you willing to do? When you say you'll do anything, what are you willing to do? And most people will say, well, I wouldn't have sex with an animal, or I wouldn't eat a pile of feces, but I'd do anything else. Well, that's not the person I'm interested in. I'm interested in the person that says they would do anything, and when I cite those as examples, they say, yeah, I'd do that. Then I give that person a card. It's called a second tier. That means they go to another place, and they're going to have to do one of those disgusting things. It may not be those 2 exact things, but it's going to be something that the rest of us would cringe or vomit if somebody said, this is what you have to do. That's disgusting. But they'll do it. And you want to know how much they'll do it? Google search musicians from 1987 to 99. There's a lot of music came out during that time. There's a lot of rock stars willing to sell their soul for fame and fortune. So I'm doing that. I did 146 abortions total in my lifetime. Now that's assisted abortions. As I said, I'm the magic practitioner. My job is to get my hands bloody. At 3 of my abortions, they didn't work. And as a Satanist, I couldn't figure out why. I'll give you an example of one, and maybe you can tell me why. I arrived, usually abortions are done after hours. So they're done at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, sometimes later. So we go in to do these when the clinics are closed, but we still have access and there's nobody outside. Well, on this particular occasion, there were bikers outside on our side of the road. There was a satanic biker gang, and across the street was a bunch of people carrying strange-looking ropes and praying. I went inside dressed as the High Wizard, and we're prepping everything, and we've got these large windows upstairs. And the people across the street get down on their knees. And I asked my friend, what are they doing? He's like, I don't know. I grew up Baptist, but you don't drop to your knees to pray. So I opened up the window to hear, because they're all saying something, they're chanting something. So we opened up the window, because as Satanists, we chanted too. So let's see what they're chanting. And everything they're saying doesn't make any sense, but we're saying it back and forth to each other. And we're saying, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. And we're like, what is that? What are they saying? That's so strange. And we said the entire, like we didn't say the entire rosary, but we said the entire Hail Mary, not knowing what we were saying. And then we closed the window back, and we went back to do the abortion. And this woman is saying that the baby's coming. And we've been there for about a half an hour. There's no baby, it's not coming. And the doctor keeps checking, and I keep checking, and no reason really for me to check, you know, that he's the doctor. But she's swearing that we're both idiots, we're both incompetent. Is this our first abortion? What's wrong with us? We need to go ahead and get down there and get to business. You know, she's about to give birth, we need to go ahead and take care of this. We're like, there's no baby in the birth canal, you're fine. And then we stand there and talk for another minute, and we hear a baby crying. And we look down, the baby came out. In my old satanic coven, if the baby was born, it would be adopted. And not by a Satanist. No Satanist wanted the baby. So it would go to a decent home. Well, that happened 3 times. A very similar story to that. Never occurred to me back then that, you know, a rosary is being said across the street, and that's what's preventing the abortion. So if you're thinking, that, you know, going out in front of an abortion clinic and praying a rosary doesn't do anything, you're wrong. It's very powerful. So I keep doing all this stuff that I'm doing. Like I said, 146 abortions. I split 120 churches, of all Baptist churches. I did everything evil under the sun, multiple times. Remember, I broke the 10 Commandments by the time I was 15. By the time I was 16 or 17, I broke them again. Everything. You take an examination of conscience form, a good one, like we have a good one on our table. And it's got, there's like probably a few hundred things on there. I've probably done everything on there. And after a while, when you can sin all you want, it's not fun anymore. It's boring. You know, it's like I said a few days ago, it's like you got a job in a candy store, and the first day you're there, there's bright lights and colorful tiles, and the floor is always clean, and the candy's always fresh, and it's bright colors, and it's like a giant rainbow, and it smells amazing. And your first day, you're like, man, I'm gonna try out a different piece of candy every day, and I'm gonna see how long it takes me to go through all of it. Well, after about 30 days, you've had everything you want. And in 6 months, you've had everything you want multiple times, and you've tried the stuff you knew you'd never try. You've had it. And you're sick of being there. And after 3 years, they refurbish the store. But it's just as ugly as it ever was. And the lights are kind of dull. And the clean tiles now aren't exciting. And the rainbow is faded. And the store smells horrible. Like you want to throw up every time you walk in. And now you've been there 5 years. You don't want to eat any more candy. Candy makes you sick. You might even be diabetic now. I had that job for 12 years. I hated it. The last 2 or 3 years, I hated my job. Not because I wanted something holy or godly. That's not an option for me. I sold my soul. I'm just tired of doing what I'm doing. I'm so disgusted by it. Everything is just vile. Everything is bad. I stopped doing so much stuff, and people were like, did you really convert? I was like, no, I'm just tired of doing this. It's not, you know, when you can shock people by the words you say, that's fun. But when they stop shocking other people, when it just becomes like regular language, it's not fun anymore. You know, it's sort of like, imagine being a NASCAR driver. You're driving a race car. I imagine that when those race car drivers first start, when it's their first job, and you know they're in there for the first 5 years and they're winning all kind of races, that's got to be exciting. What about those racers that have been doing it for 20 or 30 years? Oh, you've got to get in a car and drive around in a circle a bunch of times. It can't be that exciting. Well, it was the worst thing for me. So one day I decided I wanted to escape. You know, so I made a doctor's appointment and I drove towards my doctor, but instead I kept going. I drove about 400 to 450 miles and my car ran out of gas. I had torn up all my credit cards, everything that I had that pretty much identified me, I tore up, except I did keep my driver's license. And I went to, I sold my car for scrap so I'd get extra cash. And then I hitchhiked to a Greyhound bus stop and I caught a ride to Canada. And Canada, this is before 9/11, Canada wouldn't let me in. So I thought, okay, fine. So I opened up a United States atlas, closed my eyes and put my finger down, and it landed on Oklahoma. I was like, all right, I don't know anybody there, let me go there. So I hung out in Oklahoma for 3 years, and then decided, all right, I'm gonna try Canada again. And I drove up to Canada, and I got rejected again. And then a friend told me about a border crossing that has no guards. I thought, that's cool, I'm gonna go there. And I go there. They never have a guard there. There's a guard there the day I go. Like, okay, so, and I didn't think of it at that time, but I realized afterwards, God didn't want me in Canada. So I came down, and I'm running out of gas, I'm running out of money, so I went to Vermont. That was like the closest state to me.